Does the thought of doing anything to jolt you out of your depression just completely overwhelm you? If it's easier for you to just pull the covers over your head instead of waking up and facing the day, this episode is for you. By the end of this episode, you will have learned a practically effortless solution to learn how to manage your depression. It's scientifically proven and so easy to start, you could do it before you get out of bed every day. I'm Corey Logaitis, and I'm a life and business coach that teaches others how to release negative emotions like fear in order to unleash personal growth. I suffered with situational depression following the loss of my long-term boyfriend to suicide. And today what I'm sharing is actually what I did to get myself out of that funk. Before we go ahead and get started, if you're interested in self-help and motivational content surrounding how to deal with and process your emotions, you're in the right place. Be sure to hit subscribe to get updates on when new episodes are available. So for those of you guys who may not follow me currently, I love social media and I'm very, very involved in particular on Instagram and Facebook. Those two are my favorite. And I get very, very involved with my followers. I love having conversations and getting to meet other people, whatever level they're on. If they're in the worst crisis of their life or they're experiencing the best time of their life. I really love being able to communicate with people and, discuss those moments of life with them. So not too long ago, I was having a conversation with a follower where they were describing their depression. And, we were going back and forth. I think it was through DM, I forget. But we were talking, about how they were depressed and what they were doing to get out of it. And one of the things that, he had mentioned, which really kind of struck a chord with me, was he wasn't doing anything to address it because he was just too exhausted. So the thought of, the typical stuff that they tell you to do when you're depressed, like go out and spend time in nature and exercise and eat better. It just seemed way too overwhelming and they were physically exhausted. So it just wasn't going to be a possibility. So hearing this, it actually kind of took me back to when I was depressed, which wasn't all that long ago. It was in the summer of 2018 and I had just lost my long-term boyfriend to suicide. It was within a few weeks of the event happening. My entire life was turned upside down and I wasn't exactly sure where to go from there. And I was just depressed, which is quite common, after the loss of a loved one. I was tired, I was exhausted, I didn't want to take care of myself. Day-to-day life was just a real challenge. And I wasn't really sure where to go. So I did some research and I did some reading because it's easy to read. Because I don't have to exert any energy to do it. And I learned about this one tactic, which I now tell all of my clients and anybody that comes to me that's depressed. And I'm very excited to get to share it with you today because it's super simple and it takes less than 5 minutes. So basically what I did each and every morning during my situational depression is before I even got out of bed for the day, because I was exhausted, I stared at the ceiling and I took 5 minutes to start a gratitude practice. Now, by gratitude practice, I meant that I thought of 5 things that morning before I woke up that I was grateful for. Now, where people really get tripped up with gratitude practices is you think that it needs to be all sunshine and rainbows right off the bat. People think gratitude practice, they think Oprah, positive thinking and rainbows and unicorns and all sorts of things that your brain does not want to accept when you're depressed. Let's just be honest. That's not the way it works. So I took a little bit of a different approach in that I did not put any kind of expectations on my gratitude practice. I started off small. So how did it look for me when I started? Things I was grateful for included not needing to do laundry today because I did it yesterday. It could have been, finding a lost shoe in the closet that I thought was gone forever. So they were really, really small, manageable things that I was truly grateful for in that moment, which kind of became a shining light in a very, very dark time. So one of the ways that gratitude practices actually help is it rewires your brain, especially when done first thing in the morning, to start thinking on a more positive trajectory through the rest of the day. So for example, by starting off by saying I was grateful I didn't need to do laundry because I had done laundry the day before, then as I went throughout my day, when I actually woke up and started to face life again, I was able to see little things throughout the day which were other kind of highlights, even though they were small, and I was able to kind of mentally bank them for, oh, that's going to be part of my gratitude practice tomorrow. Eventually, the more and more you do this, the more positive your thinking becomes, and then your gratitude practice becomes effortless because you start seeing the joy in the things around you that were always there, but your brain just wasn't adapt to being able to see at the moment while you were depressed. But before I get into the science of how this really works, I want to hear from you. Do you think a gratitude practice can help with depression? Leave a comment below in the comments. I want to hear. So there's a few different ways that gratitude practices can really help with depression, and here's a few of them. First up is they really help rewire your brain out of the negative thought patterns that ultimately fuels depression. The more negative that you're thinking on a regular basis, the more and more depressed that you're going to become. So by proactively making sure very first thing in the morning, the first 5 thoughts that you have are positive ones, it's going to set up your day to start thinking more and more positively as the day goes on. And then as the weeks and months and years go by, it's something that you don't even necessarily even have to think about or practice. It no longer becomes a gratitude practice, it becomes a gratitude lifestyle. Scientifically speaking, positive thinking actually releases hormones like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, which is definitely helpful from a long-term perspective in starting to feel better as opposed to feeling really depressed. So those are key hormones that actually have to do with your mood. And it's something that you can actually proactively work towards instead of having your emotions be in control of you. So another thing it helps us do is rebuild and rewire enduring personal connection. As you go out and you interact with people on a day-to-day basis, as you're proactively thinking of positive things that are going on in your life, you're gonna start to notice when people help you or when people are there to support you. Instead of thinking the world's against you, you're gonna start to see the world as a place where everybody is with you and supporting you, which is always helpful. So here's a few tips on how to make things easier if you have difficulty with gratitude, which is a very common thing, especially if you are depressed. Number 1, be authentic with your gratitude. If you're not feeling it that day, that's fine. Don't force it. Instead, as you go throughout your day, start to notice little things that you could potentially be grateful for. Mentally bank them to be grateful for the following day for your 5x5. Number 2, be gentle on yourself and set realistic expectations. Again, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's about what genuinely feels good for you in that moment and not setting any unrealistic expectations. Going with the flow and just trying to help make yourself feel better. And number 3, like I mentioned, if you're having difficulty first thing in the morning trying to think of 5 things, just notice throughout the day as things go what you are actually grateful for or what good things may have happened for you that day, and then just bank them for the following day. It's a practice, and you're not really going to build that gratitude muscle without actually putting in the work each morning and trying. So that sums up my practically effortless solution to solving your depression. Did you find this valuable? If so, hit the like button. If not, hit the dislike. I will not be offended. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know somebody that is suffering with depression right now that you think this may be helpful for them, please be sure to share it. If you decide to try out my 5x5 gratitude challenge, definitely be sure to tag me on social media. I would love to hear about it, and I may actually feature you on a post or a future episode. Be sure to use the hashtag Corey Lowe Gratitude 5x5. Ready for even more information on depression and emotional management? Visit my website, www.coreylowe.com, and take my emotional personality quiz. You'll not only figure out your exact personality type, but you'll also learn how to manage it with tools, resources, and information delivered to your email box every single week. I look forward to connecting with you on there.